good day and welcome to the Constitution Line by Line. I'm Paul Fabrizio.
And I'm Don Frazier. I teach history and you
Political science,
teach
yes.
political science. So we're coming at the Constitution from two different angles.
We are. We do. How come history isn't a science?
It's an art. It's one of
It's
one of the original muses.
Muses.
When the Greeks invented history, which they did.
Invented history.
Yeah, I mean, they're the first person to say, well, what
took place in the past?
What took place in the past and how does it inform our genius?
Mm-hmm.
How does it inform our essence? And
Our
so
essence.
one of the guiding properties, one of the guiding spirits was the muse of history, Cleo.
Cleo. Okay.
Is the muse of history. So history is a very, very old and used to be respected discipline.
Oh.
Well, I mean, right now history majors are down by a bazillion percent, and
Right.
Students just aren't signing up for history. And yeah, it's a struggle right now.
Yeah.
And my gosh, look at what's happening in the world today. We're living like we don't know any of our own history.
Yeah, there's a connection there.
There may be a connection.
I think so.
It's amazing. 3,500 colleges and universities in this country, only 17% have civic education as part of their core curriculum. That's you guys and us guys.
I know. You're making me feel bad.
I feel bad for the Republic.
Yeah. One of the things that gets me is I see the way that political science is treated by our legislators.
Yeah.
Yet so many of them majored in political science back in college.
No honor amongst thieves.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Don. All right.
So what's our line today now that we've had our little diatribe?
Okay. We are talking about the Constitution, Article 1, Section 7.
All right. We're to the lucky 7.
That's right. And the first clause is a short one. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills.
Okay. So the House is the one that's going to finance everything, and the Senate's going to have some input.
Yes. And I think the basic principle here is no taxation without representation.
Absolutely. I think I couldn't agree more. That's one of the framing issues of the entire American Revolution. And so what's the most direct representation?
The House of Representatives.
That's right.
And so
1 per 750,000.
There you go. Not the way it was originally intended.
Not 1 per 30,000.
But the idea is that the people who are closest to the voters would be the ones who would propose raising revenue.
Well, that makes sense.
And it makes a lot of sense. The reality is, when you look at it today, does anybody care where bills that are going to raise revenue, in other words, raise taxes, does anybody care where they come from? Do we even know where they come from?
Well, one thing that's striking me about this whole series, I'm not sure a lot of people know much about where anything comes from in their own government.
Yes, I accept that. But, I mean, I think this was an idea that the framers really hung their hat on. They really liked the idea that, hey, we're going to raise taxes. It's got to be the representatives closest to the people who are going to do it. And it sounds good on paper, but how it's carried out today, I don't think anybody cares.
Well, I was raised to believe that if you were elected to Congress, that you were entrusted with the public interest, that you had the public trust.
Okay.
And so, therefore, the people with the public trust ought to be closest to the people.
Okay.
Now, have we held them particularly accountable for being stewards of the public trust?
No.
Yeah, it's a little hit and miss, that record.
Right.
You know, again, we come back to the idea of term limits, and we ought to, throw the bums out and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, no.
But
we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, we're going to get there eventually. But again, somebody's working on behalf of the public. I think that's the right place for revenue-raising bills to be raised.
Right. Now, I would argue that in the eyes of the public today, if anybody wants to raise taxes, the first focus is going to be on the political party that they're a member of.
Absolutely. And then they hang it on the president.
If he goes along with it. And in fact, we saw this just this week when there's talk about infrastructure.
Yeah.
And the Republicans and the Democrats are talking about $2 trillion in infrastructure. Okay. And how are we going to pay for it? And people are talking about, well, gasoline tax might be the way to raise some revenue. Well, is the president going to go along with it?
Yeah, correct.
Or is members of Congress going to stick their necks out and get them chopped off if the president doesn't go along with it? So I think the idea that you would hold somebody accountable for proposing to raise taxes, I don't think it exists as strongly anymore in this partisan era.
Well, and it's also the era of the imperial presidency.
You got it.
And we'll talk about that later on in this same course.
Yeah.
And so in the old days, there was more of a connection between your congressman and those he represented. And now it's getting to be more of a figurehead.
Yeah, and you think about it in an era when there's Twitter.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of electronic
The
communication.
interweb.
Yeah.
Pinstaface. Bookagram.
Without naming anything.
Yeah, without naming anything.
We have lost that connection.
We have.
With that direct connection. And I would argue if we have lost it, it's because our representatives have to represent so many people.
Preach.
Okay.
Preach it, brother. All right.
All right. That's a simple one.
All right, so that's our line.
Yeah, that's our line.
Okay. Well, then we'll pick up some meteor clauses.
Yeah, the next one
in
gets
Section
a little
7
longer.
in the next episode. Thanks for watching.